Day 3. God's pretty crazy promise. This is the story of Abraham. After the big flood in Noah's time, things got better for a little bit, but not completely. God was still far away, and God's world, which was supposed to be filled with life and laughter and beauty, was filled with wrong and with darkness. God was getting ready to do something about it. He was going to prepare a way to be with his people again, forever. But he wouldn't do it like he did in Noah's time. No flood this time. This time, God would use the best part of his creation, people. He started with an old man named Abraham. Abraham, God said, I know you don't have any kids yet, but one day you're going to have a huge family. In fact, you'll have more people in your family than there are stars up in the sky. Abraham looked up at the night sky. He didn't even try counting. After all, do you know how many stars there are in the sky? A lot. More than 100. More than 1,000. More than 1,000,000. More than 100,000 million. Abraham didn't know what to say, but God wasn't done. Abraham, God said, the most important thing isn't even that you'll have 100,000 million children and grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren. The most important thing is that one of your great-great-great-grandchildren will be a child who will bring me back to all the people on the earth. When this child is born, everyone will say, this is the king we've been waiting for. Abraham started laughing to himself. His wife Sarah was laughing too. It wasn't a happy laugh, though. They were laughing at God. Not a good idea, of course. But you have to admit, it was a pretty crazy promise. Have you ever seen an old lady have a baby? Or millions of babies? God came back to Abraham a few more times and kept pointing up to the stars. And even though the promise seemed crazy, Abraham believed what God had said. And God was with Abraham. Even though Abraham was too old to have children, and even though his wife was too old to have children, even when Abraham started to doubt God's promise, God was with Abraham. Sure enough, just as God had promised, Abraham's wife Sarah got pregnant. She gave birth to a baby boy named Isaac, which means son of laughter. Abraham and Sarah both laughed again, but they weren't laughing at God now. No, they were laughing with God. It was like a little glimpse of heaven had started to break through. Maybe, they thought, maybe God really would come back. God told Abraham to do a lot of other scary things, like leave his home, go to a brand new place that he had never seen, and Abraham listened. But Abraham didn't always trust God fully. He didn't always listen right away. He did many things that made God's heart sad. He sinned in many ways and hurt other people. Because of that, God couldn't remain. Sin drove him away. So Abraham and Sarah began to hope and pray, God, will you come back to stay?